Are you guys excited? I'm excited. Today, we're going to be taking a probe around the moon. In our very first, since we've been to orbit, we're going to be going from launch of a little satellite, and we're going to do it with a satellite this time. We're going to launch, get into orbit around the moon, stabilize a nice circular orbit there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use the moon's gravity to get us back to Kerbin safely and bring the extra science with us. So, let's just boot this right up to what we've got right now. This is the current probe I've been working on. This has enough battery power to hopefully provide for our full trip to the moon. As you'll notice, I've also put one Science Bay Junior on there, which will help us get more science recorded. And we'll also do 2 Mystery Goose, and then I have parachutes on here that will hopefully, when we come back, help slow the craft down, and we'll be able to land nice, safe, and sound. I will also be adding a couple landing gears to this just to protect my investment on it. Let me just check here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and launch this. I hope it has enough thrust to make it to the moon and back. But if not, we'll at least see where we can go from there. Alright, so let's go ahead and launch this. I've named it the Moon Orbiter. It has a probe core underneath here, which I've attached some batteries on, so we should be good to go. In fact, you can click this offset button to put stuff inside the capsules if you want to have a little bit extra space. So we'll just put those inside the probe core a little bit. We have a reaction wheel for stabilization and a couple other science experiments to get this down. Now, actually looking at this, it might not be quite enough thrust. Let's go ahead and add, we'll go to place. We'll add 4 solid rocket boosters to help give us a little extra oomph to get us into space. So let's go ahead and save that, and we'll launch it. Fingers crossed this actually works. Alright, so we're not going to land on the moon this time, but we will orbit it. And so this might be a shorter video. Let's go ahead and power up our solid rocket boosters and get ready to go. Also, another goal of this mission is I do really want to pull up a lot of, I get a good return of science, and the moon gives you much more science than you normally get. Another thing also, I have taken the liberty to shut off some of these batteries so that they don't waste any electric charge on the way there, because traveling to the moon does take a lot of time, and since we haven't researched solar panels yet, we don't have any renewable source of energy. So I leave a bunch of batteries on there disabled. You can disable them by pushing this check, and this will help them to help me to have enough power to get enough things when I get out there. So we're going to break 10,000, ditch those, do our next rocket. Now it looks like we're actually slowing down here, but that is slowing down itself, and we're starting to accelerate again. Let's go ahead and tilt into our gravity turn here so we can get into orbit. And launching at night is kind of boring. That's why I should have waited for, that's where we're going. I should have waited for the daytime. Okay, now as you remember, when we get into orbit, we want to go to our map view and see how far we are from our apoapsis. We're about 45 seconds, so we can start gradually turning, because we want to make sure we keep that about a minute, and the more we turn, the slower that clock will go. Let's see here. Alright, then we are right there, 57 seconds. We're going to hold about this heading. So we're just about, I would say an 80-degree angle. We might even be lucky and see the sun as we go up. Probably not. Alright. And we just keep burning. This is one of the fun things about Kerbal Space Program. Well, you just wait and wait for stuff to happen. Now, the orbit that we do it's not a very fancy orbit, but it's one that will help us get to the moon and then hopefully come right back from it, so we can get some nice science data and also pay off part of our contract. Whoops. Looks like I messed up the focus on that. Sometimes that happens. Alright. Sometimes you end up focusing on the wrong things. So I usually just cycle through my tabs until I get back to where we belong. There we go. Alright, so we're about 1 minute and 30 seconds away. So I'm going to warp until we get there. Let's check how we're doing on electric charge. 8.8, so we're still doing pretty good. Okay, we're going to burn right here. Make sure we're facing prograde. And burn. One of the nice things about the engine that I'm using here is it has an alternator in it, so as it burns, it actually produces electricity for me. Okay, we're just circularizing the orbit. And it looks like we don't quite make it when we run out of fuel, but that's okay because we have an upper stage for that. And there's our periapsis. We're going to just come up here, get very close to our apoapsis, burn to bring our periapsis up above the atmosphere. And there we go. Another successful orbit, so we're good to go. Now, for the moon transfer you do need to have upgraded both the mission control center as well as the tracking center at least once. And it's pretty easy to do that in the easy mode that we're playing in. What we're going to do now is we're going to set an orbit to encounter the moon. The easiest way to do this is to make it look so your moon is exactly straight from Kerbin, and then you look straight up. And then you're going to want to aim about 45 degrees. If this is a right angle, you want to aim about 45 degrees ahead of the moon. So to do that, we need to go from 45 degrees here, and you'll notice this blue bubble over the orbit line. You can click on that to add a maneuver. Now this shows you what would happen if you burn at a certain place. So if we burn prograde here for a certain amount, you'll see that our apoapsis starts going up. And that's all good because eventually, well, it looks like we're just a little behind the moon there, so what you can do is you can grab this middle here and drag it around. And look at that. There's our moon encounter. So if we burn that little bit of fuel at that one spot, we will make it there. So we're going to do this burn right here, which will take us really close to the moon, actually wrap us around it, and then we will be coming right back to Kerbin. Let's see if we can make this even better. It's tricky to pull it off sometimes. Nope. There we go. So look at that. With this orbit, we will go out there, we will orbit the moon, and come back for very little fuel. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Now this burn will be in 15 minutes. It will show a little blue arrow here down your nav ball. That shows you where you need to burn for that to happen. Whoops. Looks like we just lost power. That's why we put extra batteries on here. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So we go around. Now you can see down here, this will show you how long until the burn. And we also know that our burn is going to be 1 minute and 6 seconds long, so we need to start burning at 33 seconds long, because that's half of 1 minute and that's half of 1 minute and 6 seconds is 30 seconds and 33 seconds. We're almost there. Let's get ready to aim where we need to be. 3, 2, 1, burn. And here we go. We're on our way. We're also charging our batteries. Oh, at least this one doesn't charge batteries. Okay then. Well, that's okay. Alright, so we'll look at the map, and we see that now, since we're burning at this side, our apoapsis is getting brought up. And the farther away we get from the planet, the easier it is to burn. This is going to be a fun one, because we'll just go right past the moon, get into orbit, get some nice science from it, and then head right back. We'll also pick up a mystery goo science experiment from our from high Kerbin orbit. Okay, now it looks like we have 8 seconds left in the burn. 4, 3, 2, 1. We do want to cut off there, and we want to go very slowly because we want to make sure this is as exact as we can make it. Because even just a couple meters per second off is going to be a little slow. So now we're pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and just hit a check mark here for this maneuver node, and then I'm going to burn here and just watch this maneuver node get down below the atmosphere so that we will be safe for when we come back. There we go. So that's at 13. That's well below the atmosphere, so that will slow us right down when we get back. Okay. And look at that. We still have more than half a tank of fuel left, so we're good. We're going to go ahead and disable the power until we get there. And we will time warp by hitting period to get closer to the moon. One of the fun things here is you get to watch Kerbin just drift away. And you get to watch the moon get closer and closer. Here we go. And this point right here is the point that you cross into the moon's sphere of influence. We're going to let ourselves go through that nice and slowly, and you'll watch how this orbit changes because we're going to be coming in front of the moon. Look at that. Okay. Our orbit still down here is good, but instead of being around Kerbin now, we're around the moon. What we're going to do is, since we're up here so high, we're going to go ahead and activate one of our batteries, and we're going to run our mystery goo science. And look, mystery goo, because we're over the moon, is now giving us 40 science, which is much more than it was giving us anywhere on Kerbin. And the materials bay is giving us 100 science. Holy cow. So it's really awesome. You can get a ton of good data from this. So let's go ahead, and now that we've gotten so far and we've gotten that science, we will do our best to complete our contract around the moon. Let's see how much fuel it's going to take, because we'll burn here at the periapsis just to get ourselves into orbit. You always burn retrograde when looking to get into an orbit. There we go. Doesn't take very much at all, and that gets us into a nice orbit. And then we can just reburn to get out and head back to Kerbin. So that's going to be a node in about an hour. Let's go ahead and warp ourselves to getting there. Okay. And we are there. Let's go ahead and head ourselves back over. Looks like we're out of power. Let's activate another battery. It's kind of some tedious work, but whoops. There we go. Okay, we're burning to get ourselves into orbit. And that will complete a contract for us. Achieve orbit around the moon, 30,000 funds and 120 reputation. I'll take it. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and finish our burn to get us back into Kerbin. And one of our contracts is so we've achieved orbit around the moon now. We also transmit or recover science data from space around the moon. We have that on our ship, but we need to deliver that back to the Space Center. So let's go ahead and bring the satellite home. We burn prograde, which is going to get us going so fast we're going out of the moon's sphere of influence, and also since we're going this way and the moon's going that way, it kills our velocity off and it enables us to drop down to the planet. So we're going to go ahead and get our periapsis back inside of Kerbin's atmosphere. Down around 10,000 usually makes it so you're guaranteed to land. Okay, and look, we still have more than half a fuel tank in there, or about half, a little less than half. So it's really good because it's really easy to make a probe that can go to the moon and end up with just about everything there. So we're going to finish this here, and we're going to now be in orbit around Kerbin. So now we're falling back. Let's say goodbye, moon. Where are you? Oh, look, there's Jewel out there. Gas giant. Where'd the moon go? There's Kerbin. Goodness gracious. I'm getting dizzy. Oh well. Let's go watch Kerbin. Ah, we're blinded by the light. There's the moon. Goodbye, moon. And hello, Kerbin. That was a surprise. Did we do our science goo experiment? We didn't. We forgot to do our deep space goo experiment of joy and wonder. Let's go ahead and make sure our batteries are activated so we can do a nice safe landing, though. And at the very least, we'll get a goo experiment here in the grasslands where we land. So one of the things when you're landing with a lander that has landing legs like this, to activate them, you can click this green button up here that says gears, or you can press the G button. G activates your landing gear. Now the nice thing about that is it has a higher impact tolerance because it has stabilization than just hitting the ground with your engine. So if you put that on, it makes these probes very easy to recover. Let's see if we can get a mystery goo thing here. Nope, I've already done one there. Okay. We're getting close to landing, and one of the great things about landing on Kerbin is you have an atmosphere, and so you can use parachutes. And so there we go. So that was pretty simple. We made it all the way around the moon. We got scientific data and we brought it back. Hopefully when we land we're in a different biome and we can get some good old mystery goo science. And kaboom, we're there. There we go. 6 science. Would have been more if we got it from high space, but that's all good. Let's recover the vessel, and we are pretty much set for our next episode to go to the moon. One other thing, though, I would like to do as a quick tutorial is just go over a basic contract and how you can earn a little extra money. Look at all this extra science we got. 176 science from this one trip. Didn't have any crew. So unfortunately our crew doesn't get any experience, but we did complete the contract to recover science data from around the moon, which is good. We've got 418,000 funds, 293 science, which we'll go ahead and spend now. Let's look at this tech tree. We could start getting solar panels, which would be very useful. In fact, also getting lights and batteries will also be helpful with any landing we do. Science data, thermometer is another scientific experiment you can run to get things. Smaller landing gear, this stuff we don't need just yet, not until we start doing airplanes really. We've got heavy lifting gear, which we'll probably want to be doing soon. Fuel lines that help you pull fuel from separate fuel tanks. Big structural parts that you can use for building things, and even aerodynamics. This will give us a basic jet engine and a liquid fuselage. So let's go ahead and get the solar panels with the extra batteries and lights, because that's going to be pretty needed. We will also I kind of want to get some of these aerodynamic things so that we can do some flight contracts around Kerbin. But then we should also get wheels for good landing. Do we want the heavy parts? I think what I'm going to do is I will get the heavy rocketry this time, and we will also get the fuel lines for. Or do we want this? No, let's get this. This gives us huge decouplers and also adapters so we can fit big parts of spaceships to little parts of spaceships. Alright, so that gets us started. Now you'll notice these are grayed out. This is because we can't research technologies that require over 100 science. The only way to do that is to upgrade the Space Center. Now we do have enough money to do that right now. And in fact, it might be useful because when we do that, this lets our Kerbals do EVA samples. That means they can collect dirt or something for wherever they go, which will be very useful when we get to the moon. So let's do that now, and then when we do our episode tomorrow, we'll be able to make sure we get everything taken care of. We can get the full maximization of science when we go to the moon. So that's a lot of money. So when you run out of money, what do? You take contracts. Now, there's a bunch of different types of contracts that you can get. Some will require you to do stuff like this one says, we want you to bring us science data from around the moon. That can even be any science experiment you've done before. This one, if I'm successful, which I know I can do, almost doubles my funds. So this would be a very good contract for me to take. In fact, I'm going to take it, get 20,000 funds, and then use that to put it towards building a rocket. We also have certain contracts. This contract says we want you to put an orbit in a specific satellite in a specific orbit. So if you come out here and look at Kerbin, this will show you a couple contracts. These are some available things that we can pick up. It will say this, for example, this one says to put a satellite in this orbit. If we do, they'll pay us a good chunk of cash. You'll also notice on Kerbin you have these things down here. What these are specific things. When you see the footprints, that means that they want an EVA report there. When you see the notepad, they want a crew report. So this is going to be a multiple contract that they want us to go to this area, send Kerbals there, and do these reports. Now, they don't have to be just on Kerbin, they can be on other bodies. Since we've only been to the moon, they won't be very many places. We take a look at the moon. We don't have any contracts available just there yet, but hopefully we will soon. But Kerbin right now, they really want us to do these things, and they'll pay you a good chunk of money to do it. So by doing those contracts, you can get some things. Another thing they will ask for you to do is to build space stations and also surface outposts. These will usually reward you a really good chunk of money. This one rewards me more money than I've ever seen, and 719 science. A lot of stuff. But you have to put a facility on Minmus, which is a little asteroid that can support 5 living Kerbals, have power and antenna and a docking port, and you have to make sure that you can maintain the stability of it for 10 seconds. So it's a good chunk. I'm not going to take that one just yet, but I am going to look at this one. They will also ask you to plant flags places. This one wants me to plant a flag on the moon. This other contract synergizes with that, with space around the moon, and this one wants me to explore the moon in general. So if I can send a Kerbal to the moon, plant a flag on it, and send send data from space when I'm there, I'm going to be loaded with money. We also have this contract. Let's look. Science data from the surface of the moon, which is where we're going to go. So let's take that contract and get the money when we're there. This one wants me to go all the way to Duna, which is about as far away as Mars, and I think I'm going to pass on that one for now. This one wants me to go to Minmus and do visual surveys of it. We'll wait for a bit on that one. And this one wants me to test a specific part. It wants me to take this Rotomax part, it's an engine, and go on an escape trajectory out of the moon and then use it. I'm going to wait on that one. That's going to be pretty tricky. You don't ever have to do all these. You can cancel any contract you want, and it will give you another one. The last type of mission they give you are rescue missions. For example, this Kerbal is up in space. He doesn't know what to do. If you save him, they will give you a good chunk of money. Not only that, you get Billy Bob Cal Kerbin will join your crew. So it's really awesome. Let's go ahead and finish there. So shorter video today. We will tomorrow go over the basics of what you need to build a lander to land on the moon. And from building it, we are actually going to launch it, get into orbit, take ourselves to the moon, land on the moon, and come back. So it'll be a longer episode. Really excited for it. In the meantime, I'm Eric. Have a great day.